Discipline sets you free.
Yeah.
It's ironic, but I love that saying because it seems like we might be doing loads of things, but it's like not really. We're very disciplined on this trade cycle, and all the things we do complement that trade cycle. We're not trying to be a physical player. We're not trying to be anything else other than what we are and what goes around it. Hi everyone, welcome to another episode of World of Oil Derivatives. I'm Greg Newman, the Chief Executive of Onyx Capital Group. Today we have another episode in our leadership series. I'm joined today with our new Chief Technology Officer, Ishaan Hemnani. So thanks for joining us, Ishaan. And just a quick reminder before we do get started, please like and follow this podcast on YouTube, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. It really does make a big difference. Ishaan.
Happy to be here.
Yeah, great. So Ishaan, let's just start with who you are and what you're doing here.
Yeah, so I'm brought in as the Chief Technology Officer, and my main role is to scale the company up from a tech perspective, and continue to grow.
The whole point of these podcasts is to kind of show our new leadership team as we kind of take the next big step into professionalizing and scaling kind of our overall offering and creating a group offering. Technology is a huge part of that. And Ishaan is here to be an integral part. I think that's probably the first thing I wanted to mention is that I don't think you're your classic Chief Technology Officer. Usually you think CTO, you think some super brainy guy who's just focusing on the product, the coding, etc. You're very much important for a leadership role because there's a lot going on here. There's the risk management through to the liquidity platform, the website. There's just endless stuff we can talk about where it's going. And it's just about taking that leap into really world-class tech. So I guess just to emphasize that, I mean, your background was like really important. Obviously, we knew each other before, but your big thing was your work at Bunker X and creating that platform. I guess how did you even get into Bunker X in the first place? Your trading experience, essentially.
Yeah, so I worked as a trader. I've been at some of the big classic oil trading shops, and then I went more specifically into the bunker industry, and essentially I just saw a lot of inefficiencies in that market, and we created tech solutions to address that, which is happening.
When you say we, so you could see it happening where you were, and then you thought, I'm going to set up my own shop and just do this.
Yeah, you see people spending hours and hours a day doing repetitive tasks that could be automated, essentially, right? And when you go and automate it, those things, and you make them part of the customer's workflow, right? You just become so ingrained in the market itself. So today, Bunker X is used by 75-80% of the bunker market, right? It's just become part of the infrastructure of the market, right? And it was a huge reason why I joined Onyx, and that it's the same story, just on a much bigger scale. So in my view,
you were sitting down as a fuel oil trader, and your job was essentially to manage physical and derivatives. Yeah,
I was doing a lot of the hedging. We were selling a lot of hedging solutions to clients. Okay. These are obviously end users, shipping clients. So
you were involved in that trade cycle already, and you could just see the inefficiencies in it.
Yeah, the first few hours of every day for everyone in the bunker market is just calling up suppliers in hundreds of ports around the world and getting prices, right? And if 10 minutes later a new client asks for a price there, they tend to re-ring again. And it was this just happened again and again and again. And then you realize what the client doesn't need an exact number all the time. They just need indicative numbers. And that was the first kind of thing we really addressed, was to gather all that data and deliver it in a much better way.
Well, that was your idea for starting Bunker X.
Actually, initially we tried to start as an auction system to try and electronify the whole trade. In physical, that's a little difficult to do, but a lot of people have tried it. People have raised tens and tens of billions to tackle that back in the dot-com era in the year 2000. All have kind of failed. The market is still very inefficient. I wouldn't say inefficient, but the market's very... it's hard to electronify a physical market, physical trading.
Low technology.
Yeah.
And this is definitely seemingly unique to the oil market. The technology, as you say, has been around for like a long time.
Yeah.
So it's not like you were sitting there, you can't have been the only one thinking there's got to be a better way to do this.
Yeah.
But as you said, the people who had tried, they might have had the technology, but they couldn't get the buy-in from the market. So what gave you the confidence to start up an independent, startup to actually be able to achieve this?
Yeah, I think when you start initially, there's always a bit of naivety, and maybe that's good, right? You're a little blind to what doesn't work. And actually, the thing that worked really in terms of creating a price index for the whole market, right? To go off. By the end, we had banks contacting us and asking if they could write derivatives based on our physical price indexes.
Oh, right.
Major banks, right, asking that. We created an index with one of the independent PRAs. All that came about from noticing what people really want. But when we first started the company, it was more to create this auction system, right? And everyone goes to that first because that's where the money is. That's where you think if you can, electronify the middleman part of it, right? You can make it cheaper. But in physical markets, that's very hard. Derivative markets, though, I'd argue that, maybe should be happening already, right?
But there's so many similarities because it should have already happened, but you have the resistance. And as I say, I think it's unique to oil. Maybe we can discuss a bit more on it in a bit, but I still think it's worth that initial bit. You had that confidence it must have just been really frustrating for you to see, essentially, and you just backed yourself with determination to find some kind of better solution.
Yeah, and you iterate, and in the end something works, and when it starts to work, it's pretty amazing to see, right? Our user growth was well over 50% was by word of mouth, which is a kind of classic startup metric that people really look at to see how fast when clients are telling other clients about it, you're onto something. Up till the day I left, it was still growing very fast, right? Easily doubling year on year. Which was great to see, right? It really shows that you have product market fit. And like I said, it just becomes part of the market, right?
So I think the big difference with you, I can see, is pretty much the only one I know who set up a technology offering who was a trader themselves. People say they're a trader and they've started solutions, but yours was very much, BunkerX is a technology software platform through and through, right? It's APIs, it's streaming in live prices, it's calculating or streaming live physical prices, which doesn't exist elsewhere. There's a big tech job to be done there.
Yeah.
But the rarity is you can easily find a great trader, you can easily find a tech person, a developer. But the combination in between is actually so hard that I think that's probably the biggest difference, and why I think it's so important you're so important to Onyx and its future development, because you just can't get around that domain expertise. So do you think you can pinpoint, I know it's putting you on the spot a bit, but pinpoint exactly what the difference was in the early stages which got people to buy in?
Yeah, I think you have to understand your customer. Yeah. So having been one of them, like you said, probably on the Venn diagram of people who traded and had tech startups, the overlap is pretty small. There are probably not a lot of people in there, right? Which has obviously worked in my favor. But
you're also a non-threatening personality, I would say.
Okay, so that doesn't sound like a compliment.
No, it is, because you had the empathy on the physical side, and then you're trying to figure out a solution that works for them. Because when we were trying to work together, you weren't at Onyx, we were trying to work together.
Yeah.
Even though it didn't quite work out, all we were doing is, it didn't feel like you were trying to, a lot of third parties, you feel like they're trying to do a deal with you, but really they're trying to screw you. That's how it feels.
Yeah.
Whereas I think it was very much a to and fro argument. I think that definitely works in your favor. And I think that's the only way to approach the market, really, when you want to do something so
I have
innovative.
to say, I think the thing that really drives me the most, and the things I love seeing, is building stuff that customers actually want to use.
Yeah.
Right? So everything else is secondary to that. So, it might make less money, it might make the market more efficient, but if customers want to use it, I think that needs to be superior. And we've seen in the market already, right? There are other people who prioritize maybe profit or revenue or things like that over customer usage. I think if you can get customers to buy in, if it's something they really want, all the rest will come later, right? And that's also that I find exciting, right? When you build something that, we just launched a new version of Flux, we've just integrated into WhatsApp, we're doing a whole host of things that we can get into later. But when you see customers come back and say, this is amazing, and we track the usage and all those numbers are going up and to the right.
Yeah, so you're pretty ruthless on that. It's absolutely value first and the money will come, essentially, is the principle.
Yeah, exactly.
And if I'm right, BunkerX was actually a free service.
a huge part of it was free. Yeah, we would monetize more than on the brokerage and trading on the side of it, right? And we actually had just getting more into the derivatives market, we were the first to create a forward physical market in bunkers, right? Where we had derivatives streaming in, we had algos that were pricing up the physical premiums, remarking those constantly, and that was very popular as well, right? It was like a one-click hedge for a forward physical. It looked like a derivative screen, but it was physical forward.
Yeah, no, it's amazing.
That was
but I think cool, going back to how you've approached it, like it's a paranoid market, the oil market, and commodities probably in general. And you coming out and saying, look, this is a great solution, you're going to be a bit wary. And you say, fine, I'm going to back it so much that you can have it for free, because I back the investment will be worth it, because if the users are going to use it, the users keep coming, you'll be able to monetize it later. I think that's a real true entrepreneur, but B, someone who actually believes there's value add. I think that's a rarity in the industry. And it's something at Onyx, like, I guess we've had different kind of rebuttals, but similarities as well. And people are initially a bit wary of what you're trying to do. But I think, I don't know, I guess my question would be on the back of that, like, is this part of a macro theme that is this always been your principle? You like improving or seeing more efficiency and seeing more cost savings in general, and that's where you start, or you just like doing cool stuff? Like, there's a bit of a difference, isn't there? You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, I think it gives me joy to see it being more efficient, right? And just to be super practical about it as well, you also have to understand the customer and their budgets, right? Like in bunkers, you're mostly selling to shipping companies, and many of there are a lot more shipping companies, I think, than oil traders. And there's a really long tail. Yes, you've got the Maersks and the MSCs and all the big guys at the top who might have big budgets, but there's a huge long tail of thousands and thousands of 2-3 man shops, operators who are just renting in ships and hiring them out. It's almost like Uber drivers in a way. It's just, and they're just small man bands. These guys are not going to pay for data. So you also have to understand your customer and think, well, how could we monetize those people?
Because they're completely willing to give up on the price as long as there's low capital intensive thing for them to do, essentially. And you've just essentially played that very well.
I sat with a customer once and I showed him, it was exactly like this. It was like 5 guys in an office, right? They had 3 or 4 ships, they were doing grain from Brazil to China, Bangladesh, things like that. And I showed him our software, and literally sitting next to him, he saved about $10,000 because it showed him a more optimal place to buy his fuel.
You did that live.
I was literally sitting next to him. Yeah. And I said, so do you want to pay me $100 a month for this software? And he said, no way. But I'll tell you what, you can book our next bunker stem, which would have, on the brokerage side makes thousands of dollars, right? So at some point you have to match how the clients think, right? These guys are just not used to having big line items for software. Most of their work is in Excel. You'll probably never get them off because they don't want to pay for that. But it's in their culture to go out and pick the phone up to a broker, even though that is way more expensive.
It's expensive in a way, but I think I also empathize because, like, if I take airlines, I'm more experienced with airlines, they're saying, I know I'm getting a bad price. It doesn't bother me though, because what I get in return is a price that I don't have to margin every day. I can call up a bank or a trade house or major these days and say, whatever you give me, I'm not going to pay you until it literally expires. So if we've got a 2024 hedge, at the end of 2024, I'll pay you or you pay me the net result. And to have that completely bilateral open credit line means that they don't have to put any cash into it. There is a credit price, but only on the price on the fuel, which they can pass on to the customer. So they say, I'm not an oil trader. I'm not looking to make, I know that's your job to make money on that bid offer. My job is to use the minimum amount of cash and just, be able to justify the costs I'm charging to the end user. So it just makes sense in their business model. It took me a long time because you initially like, this is so stupid. Why would you do it like that? But I think that's very unfair because their business model is clear, and the macro side of things, the time, not the expertise, all these kind of things. Why would you focus on that? It's not your core job. That's the whole point. And what they're essentially saying is, I'll let the market compete with itself and become more efficient over time, and that's how I'll get my cost saving on the price. And then I'm not paying you anything. But then, and on the flip side, completely flip side, you have the trade houses and majors that would much rather pay you up front, and they're not paying you anything on the bid offer because that is their business model. But I guess with Bunker X, in the early days, I guess it was shipping companies, but you started to deal with these guys, no, more and more as time went on.
Yeah, and all these guys do have shipping arms as well, right? So it does, and people would start using that data, and then we did little things. We start putting in distances and stuff like that, and I was sitting with some more like classic oil traders, like and they were they couldn't believe it when they could get all the stuff. They thought it was amazing, and it kind of realized like, okay, maybe there's a wider market out there, right, for us. But I would the analogy I would give is maybe who books airline tickets through a travel agent today, right?
Oh, yeah.
Some people do, right? But you can go on Google Flights or Skyscanner or something and get it as well. Now, if there was none of this existed, but I'm the first one to come up and say, here's a Skyscanner, but you have to pay a small fee. In the long run, it saves you, and that's just people just maybe don't like that. They say, no, I'd rather call my travel agent. I know he's taking a 2%, and that works out more expensive. Or in some cases, you pay the PA on top of that. All the fees later. We were like the Skyscanner in that way, right? And we basically gave it for free.
But it's funny as well, though, because they're asking, essentially what they're saying is, you take the risk. If you think it's so good, give it to me for free. Then you should attract users, and then otherwise, why should I use it? But it does flip, and I guess if you'd stayed, let's say 10 years time of Bunker X, do you think it will mold into a subscription revenue business rather than a monetizing through the trade, or what do you think is likely?
Again, it's the culture of the users. Maybe that becomes more the case. And don't get me wrong, there was a small percentage of the revenue, maybe 10 or 15% that was subscription. But I think the big thing we had, that it was so sticky, right? That the repeat usage, like I said, the organic growth, we almost did no marketing, right? And that's just, when you have a good product.
Well, that domain expertise, it's invaluable, because again, everyone looks at the oil markets and says, I just don't understand why is everything not electronic? Why are there so many brokers, voices? There's all the classic things that superficially you go, that doesn't make sense. But if you've got domain expertise, you can start to build a picture as to why, and then you need to figure out what actually improves the trade cycle. So I guess that leads us quite nicely to like the Onyx situation. So I really needed a CTO to take what we had, which was, the kind of foundations of a liquidity platform. We have our data, our research, and we know where it's heading. But it's funny when you know something but you can't do anything about it. It was like a known, but I can't do anything about it. Which was essentially making these products, A, bring them together into a efficient solution, B, making them very user friendly. Because it wasn't hard, or hasn't been hard, to convince people that there should be value here, and they can. I get what you're trying to do, but there's a big step to. It's so easy to use. I just love it. And I think that's 100% where your skill set lies, and what your experience has been all about, specific to the oil market. So, I guess that's where it's kind of the premise, and I think obviously excited you enough to take on the challenge. So I guess maybe you could speak a bit about like what you initially saw as the upside.
So there is a lot of valuable stuff we have here, and I think a huge amount of it is down to distribution, right? I think it's stuff that clients want. It's stuff that I know when I was an oil analyst, at Noble, I would have loved to have some of the stuff that you guys have. And it's just about, putting it in, because, I also understand that our clients have short attention spans. They're super busy. They care about their P&L more than anything else that you're going to give them. So if it's not easy and intuitive, right, they're never going to give you a second chance, maybe even, right? So you just have to put it in the way that they want it. And all the good stuff that's here, I think we just need to, the distribution has to be good. And I think there's a lot of ways to present our data, our research, our services to clients in a better way, right? And the truth is, there's no getting way around it, that tech is now a part of all of that, right?
Absolutely.
Like 10 years ago, maybe you'd be a broker with just a phone, right? Or maybe even 5 years ago. Today, I think if you were to set up a brokerage, right, for example, you'd need, you want price streams, and a lot of the brokers will offer APIs and added on services and research, and how is that getting delivered to their clients, and all this kind of all these things are tech solutions, right? So you can really build on that. So that's how I would. That's what kind of excited me about it, right? Because I think there's an opportunity for Onyx here to take all the good that's here, make it so it's so ingrained in the client's workflow, which we can already see happening, right? I've only been here for 2 months or so. Like I said, it's very similar to Bunker X. You become part of the infrastructure and the workflow for all your clients.
So the first thing on that front is, if we're going to get this into people's day-to-days, it needs to be very well distributed, like you're saying. And I guess in your head, it was like, there's low-hanging fruit. I just need to, you're very focused on getting the low-hanging fruit out the way, which I guess the majority of which has come through WhatsApp integration, like being able to customization around our platform, just like tiny things, seemingly tiny things. I know they're a big development job, but just wouldn't have known or thought about it. Would have had a vague idea before, but like how kind of focused you've been on those initial changes. It's funny how you can create a new momentum. Yeah. And so that, I think that's already going really well. So I think, those are kind of the foundational things you're working on. But I think, we should talk more about, again, what the C-suite's here to do is really take this big step into delivering all the things we've been working on for, almost 7.5, 8 years now, into this value proposition into the market. And I think you said quite well, you can't avoid it being technology. It's not like we have a technology arm. It's like technology has to be the delivery system for everything. And I really like the way someone described it before, which is, data is data. Technology is the flow of data. Exactly. And everything we have needs to flow through technology because everything is becoming data. So what I'm really excited about is being able to essentially have this company not to be said to be technology driven, but to genuinely be technology driven. And that, again, the delivery system. So I think there's no shying away, or we want to be transparent. It's all going to be around our platform. Ultimately, our software platform is delivering. We want it to deliver everything from our liquidity mainly, which is our main USP and our main value proposition to the market, supported with the proprietary data around positioning that's unique to us, and the research around that. Then of course the news and all that stuff. So I think what do you see in the horizon? Let's say for the next couple of years that you go from there maybe.
I don't want to always use too much like the one-stop shop, but like I listened to the podcast you did with Omar, right? And a lot of that was to say we're liquidity providers, but we're servicing the market. I mean, it's a funny story. When I took the job at Onyx, so my brother's an oil trader, and my mum called and she was worried. She said, "Aren't you competing now?"
She doesn't want her sons competing.
Yeah, I guess not. And
my mum would love it.
And and the first thing that came to my head to say back to her was, no, we service them, right? We're like a service provider, right? Whether that's with liquidity or one of our, the brokerage or the media or the research, the data, all
Omar
that.
Taking him out for a pint. Service each way.
Yeah, exactly. There's all kinds. I mean, our risk system is a huge part of that as well, right? So I think that's kind of how I described it, and that's how that means that we, exactly what you said, right? Like our technology platform should service our clients, right? And
I think it's the market infrastructure concepts. How do we become market infrastructure, and why do we even have the right to? Because I think other people have said, this needs disruption, I'm going to come in and be this disruptor. So that's a third-party technology. And again, we mentioned a lot about domain expertise. It's all about leveraging Onyx's expertise. So it shouldn't be threatening to anyone, because we want to be this service provider. It helps with the valuation. It helps us be a sustainable growth business. And ultimately, our job is, all I see your job is, there's a lot of work, but holistically and the macro is back to the delivery system. So why should our risk systems be the best risk systems for people to trade off? And why should it be part of the infrastructure of how they trade? Because we've just spent all this time, all we ever do is focus on the trade cycle and the bid offer and derivatives.
Yeah.
So lo and behold, we've been able to build technology that has live P&L, it has live mark to market, live position management, live risk analysis, VAR analysis. We'll be putting margining in there. It's not because we're better than anyone, it's because that's been our entire focus.
Yeah, I think that's a huge part of it, right?
Yeah.
We're just super focused on what we do. We just know our stuff.
Yeah.
Can I swear on this podcast?
You can be me.
Yeah, okay. We just we just know our shit, right?
Yeah.
And that's what we stick to. And I think just being ultra focused and just being the best at what we do specifically just allows us to be, there's a million different ways, and I'm sure you get pitched on taking the business in lots of different ways, but staying focused allows us to just be the best at that thing, right? And being so ingrained in that market.
Discipline sets you free.
Yeah.
It's ironic, but I love that saying because it seems like we might be doing loads of things, but it's like, not really. We're very disciplined on this trade cycle, and all the things we do complement that trade cycle. We're not trying to be a physical player. We're not trying to be anything else other than what we are and what goes around it.
Yeah.
And like I say, like these guys are the traders. Let's be honest. They work incredibly hard, long hours. We've now got a Sing office that does Sing hours, and we'll have the US with, in some time. So we've got almost a 24-hour coverage. And that means, in combination with our skill set, that means our market prices of fair value have to be the best in the market, because we're doing the most trades. We're there all the time. They're trained to do it. And I think that complements, the risk system plus the data, the live data, plus we're showing back the market our data on market positioning.
It's the best way to service
spinning.
the clients,
Exactly.
essentially, right?
And
I
everything
think
that they're doing back to them and supporting them. You know what I mean?
The process of me joining, I don't know if you remember, but it was, we had maybe 2 months of discussions about the vision, right? And that was just to get it crystal clear, right? So, I have a roadmap out for the next 2-3 years, right? On exactly how to achieve that. It's very clear. That's a great thing to be able to say to new people joining the team, right? That we know exactly what we're doing. We're not just flying blind, right? We know exactly where we want to get to, and we know the value add of every new piece of tech that we put out. We know why.
That's the most exciting thing. It's not like we're struggling to come up with ideas.
Yeah.
It's like we have all these in the pipe. We just need to work through them, and it's really exciting. Like whenever you come out with something new, as you say, it's only been 2 months, but there's already data newsletters and like the widgets and WhatsApp, and then suddenly you can just see where it's going, and I can't wait to see what it's like in a year's time, and then a year after that. And I just know that we'll just keep going. But I think what's really important for both of us is that you gain the trust for the industry on what you're building, because it's a great end user product, and I'm focusing more on with you to get that trust into what we're trying to do, because this ultimately, we're not being martyrs here. This helps us create a very valuable business. But I think where some of the rebuttals have been is like, well, you're a trader. It's like, look, we're very much trying to be a liquidity provider as a service. We're trying to take down as much of the market's flow as we can and deal with it smarter, so we can have this hub, this liquidity hub that's supported with technology and data. If we don't deliver on that, we don't get what we want. So we're aligned with the industry.
Exactly.
I think that's the job in the next few years, and that's what the C-suite, you and the rest of the guys, that's what we're here to do.
But like you said, it's very focused, right? Like the biggest skill and the hardest skill in poker is knowing when to fold, right? So I think just there's so many things that we could be doing, but just to be super focused to play our hand, in the best way possible. I think that's crucial, and that's what I'm super excited about, right? And
just to finish it off, I guess the market share idea, you were saying when you started Bunker X, and then you started to have all this great feedback. Essentially, you thought this must. When you look forward, just to get your crystal ball out, like in 3 to 5 years, and being invested and knowledgeable with technology, can you see what the market looks like in 5 years? Is it like heavily like?
Yeah, I have an idea. I think it's already happening, right?
Yeah.
We've already, I think today already, right? Just from the few things we've released since we've come, we can already see some of our customers, our traders, behaving a little differently, right? In how they, how they get prices, how they're communicating with us. That's already changing a little bit, right? And that will, I have an idea that how the industry will be. In my head, this is kind of like FX and equities was maybe 15, 20 years ago, right? Now, not to say that, everyone has a place in the market. I don't want to say that we're disruptive, but maybe the market is growing. Right?
And we're trying to enhance, I always think.
We're just trying to enhance, exactly.
Not replacing anyone. But the other interesting thing that people will always want to hear about in this day and age is artificial intelligence and its involvement. I think the initial hype early on in the year, it was actually quite disruptive, if anything, because people are asking the impossible for what you can use AI to do with your product.
As in ChatGPT and
basically, like and it wound up the data team, because it's like, well, you know, we've been working on this kind of stuff for a while, and now you're saying AI everything. So it doesn't make any sense. So, but at the same time, you know, there's obviously a lot of benefits. So what is your view generally on AI and its internal use for Onyx?
Well, in terms of on trading, it's been used for a long time. I mean, if you think about derivatives trading or electronic trading, it's so suited, right? You have tons of data. Most of it is very clean because it's orders and prices and, bids and offers. It's volumes, price. It's very clean data, right? And you have so much of it. And there's so much money to be made if you get it right, right? So generally, like, you see a lot of high frequency traders and tech companies, at the bleeding edge of AI generally, right? Like, do you know who owns the 4th biggest GPU cluster, I think, in the world?
XTX?
It's a market maker. Yeah. So,
I didn't know that,
like, I think it's like Facebook, Tesla, someone else, and then them, So, like, this shouldn't be surprising. Because it's so well suited and the rewards are so big, right? To anyone who can get it right. I think what ChatGPT did is kind of basically do it on natural language, which then makes it applicable to everyone, right? But for trading, you need a lot of logic, right? And it has to be very black and white. ChatGPT is not very good at logic because it's been trained on human language, right? So if there's this classic example where you go in and if you give ChatGPT a riddle, like Greg walked into the room and put a piece of chocolate in the box. Ishaan walked into the room, took it out the box. Greg comes back in, where should he look for the chocolate or something like that, right? It kind of hallucinates and it gets it wrong. ChatGPT 3 used to get that wrong. ChatGPT 3.5, I think, started getting it right. But apparently because it was trained not just on human language, it was trained on actual code and logic, right? So you get a lot more. You can get a lot more interesting. I see what you're saying. The data team probably would have said, "Oh, well, we've been using AI for a long time." But there were definitely leaps with neural nets, and ChatGPT kind of showed what's possible.
What's possible?
Right?
Yeah, exactly.
But applying that to trading, I would say that's in the equities markets and things. That has probably been done for a long time, right? But
then as a service, I mean, artificial intelligence for us will probably be more on that, right?
Yeah, and we will start working on that, right? Or we already are sort of, bringing it in to our workflow, right? I think people are always scared about this stuff, right? Is it going to replace brokers? Is it going to replace this or that? I think in truth, it probably just makes everybody a lot more productive. Right. There's this other classic analogy about, you look at like, say, farming, right? Like, I don't know, 100 years ago, 50% of the people were farmers. I don't know the exact numbers. Today, I think it's something like 2%. Yet we have more food and calories than we've ever had, right? And that's just because of technology, right? When tractors came out, probably everyone said, oh, we're all going to be unemployed. Not really. Yeah, okay, obviously there are way less farmers, but those people just find other jobs, and the people who keep doing it just become way more efficient, right? Yeah. So it's one of the first things we did, right? Now all our developers are using, AI coding, co-pilots, we're rolling this kind of stuff out across the firm if it can make everyone more efficient. I think to roll it out to liquidity providers, that's a little bit more nuanced work, which we are. Yeah, of course we're doing, right?
Well, I say to the brokers, especially research people, absolutely. Like, it's just helps you do your job more efficiently. I still feel you need the human touch. Like, even for lawyers right now, I love using ChatGPT to give me a general overview, because it's just using the language that's already out there, like a general sense of the law, and you kind of ask it a question. It just arms you better for the discussion with the actual lawyer. You're never going to make a decision without the lawyer. Yeah. And it's the same like stockbrokers, brokers in, how we want to be brokers, which is advisory. You're definitely still going to speak to the broker.
Maybe even your lawyer's using it on their side, right? So you've both met having been like sort of
informed
prior with ChatGPT, right? Yeah. Let's say. So what's happened there really? But you're both doing the same job. You're just way more productive,
right?
And so
It's starting from a way more informed position, which is just helpful. And it's funny that the number of people who lament like meetings, like, oh, these meetings are so silly, we're having meetings about meetings, and actually being more prepared for these things, so you can, as soon as you're there, you're saying, right, let's just talk about the crux of the issue. That's effectively what things should become. I think AI, when we say AI in trading, actual doing the trading, I mean, I've got no idea, to be honest. I almost don't think, I think it could be quite distracting. I think we need to focus on the best possible service of what we're doing through our technology. And yes, if we can think of ways systematically to be providing better liquidity, fine, absolutely, we should be doing that. But I think to think that it's all going to be, the market's going to be ran by robots, it's just...
No, I don't think... what I do think will happen is that AI might augment the traders, right? In the same way that, you know, you become more productive and your lawyer does. Yeah. Traders might become more productive having
I can
some
see
kind of AI capability.
For example, if I say, you know, I want to have a different stop if it's a trending trade versus a contrarian trade versus a momentum trade. I look at what the market conditions are, what the volatility are. You can bring all that together, the logic that you're going to do anyway, to come up with a trade craft, your risk management framework. That AI makes a lot of sense, and we absolutely will be doing that, right? And that's an example of helps your trading in terms of risk management a hell of a lot. But at the end of the day, you still got to make the decision. You still got to have your view.
Exactly. Maybe pricing more exotic stuff. Maybe doing your hedging. Right. Maybe quoting out to the market in different ways. Right. Different for different clients. There's a lot of ways to do that. But in all these examples, you are not replacing one trader. You're just augmenting them. Right. You're just making them. You're just 10xing their capability. Which is exciting, right? Because I think if you're a little old school, I think the way things are moving, you can kind of get left behind. So it's important for us to be aware of what is out there, what's being used, embracing the parts that we think can really help us, right, to keep growing.
Well, this is, I think, probably the good thing to end on is, you know, your team management and your ability to build around that, because an idea is not easy, but a lot of people have ideas. The experience you have from doing it yourself and learning the hard way, I'm sure you're probably the first person to say it's 98% execution, which of that 98% is probably 90% people and making the right decisions with people. And what are your philosophies around building this team out now and taking the current team to think, I mean, do you want them all aligned? I mean, even yesterday, as an example of something you can talk about, talking with our data guy about, you know, being more analytical focused and giving up more of the operational stuff because we need to scale that so we can support more research and development, things like that. So, what do you think about the team in general? Yeah,
I think, you know, I've obviously walked in to a big team. I think a big plus for Onyx is that it's quite a young company, right? I think John mentioned this as well. There's not many legacy issues or anything like that.
You're not going to have to convince people to try new things because they don't have those biases.
The truth is, I think when you look at on the tech side, what do people want, right? They want a clear roadmap. They want to be part of something successful, right? They want to be growing. I almost view it, we're like a startup within a highly profitable company, right? Which gives us, you know, and we have customers in-house, right? I've said to the guys, everything we build, we should give it to our, you know, 30 traders sitting there first, because they are exactly like who we want to sell to in a way. And if they see value in it, so it's a great test case. It makes us, it's a huge advantage, right? We have our own customers. We are our own customer, right? And I think that's a huge plus for anyone.
So again, you're using your efficiency philosophy like internally as well, right? Like, why would you have huge testing teams when you just have a trading floor ready to test your systems? And
it's exactly what we've done.
Yeah. And in general, like, what would, if you had to summarize your principles, I guess definitely looking for efficiencies always. You like to work fast?
Yeah, I think speed, you know, there's this saying, I was thinking of putting up on the wall, but that time is money, but speed is free, right? It's by the founder of quite a famous company. But the idea of that is like just having a culture of speed in the development team it's a huge plus, right? And I think getting stuff out fast, that kind of culture of quick engineering, you know, you hear at Facebook, move fast, break things, all this kind of stuff, right? Like it should really mean something, right? People should, you know, you don't want to, you want that culture. That's exciting for the developers and it's exciting for the customers.
Well, everyone loves it. I mean, we've had issues in the long past now, technology being slower and things not working, and it becomes a running joke and it becomes quite cynical. The December deadline, how far beyond the December deadline is this going to be, our 6 month bid and things like that. And it's like, it's not good, right? And then to flip that completely now, being like, you guys didn't even know this was in the pipeline, but bang, 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 bang. It's like, whoa, what the hell's next? And suddenly everyone loves that. Yeah. It's like super exciting.
I think that's probably just coming from a trading background, right? Speed is a huge part of it, right? And
sure, but I'm actually saying it flips the other way, where people are so impressed, almost overly impressed, because it's like, I just didn't think this is how it worked.
Yeah.
And everything I hoped, I've got and more, and that's cool. And people just like cool stuff.
Yeah.
And I think technology is it's still exciting for everyone across the world. But I think for us to see our niche having these little things, no matter what they are, it just creates an internal buzz and excitement. And my thing, to extrapolate on your speed point, and I'm just going to maintain it, it's momentum. You have to have momentum. Like that saying about you're either growing your business or in managed decline, or you're evolving or you're dying, all these same things. It's kind of the same point, but it's like, as a leader, I think you need to be strategic about your momentum. So there's managing expectations, but you don't just like front load everything and say we're gonna have all this soon, and because if you don't deliver, you're screwed.
Yeah.
Whereas if you can just manage, release after release, you gain trust.
I think I hound the team nonstop,
right,
multiple times a day. Like, where are we with this? Where are we with this? Right. And it's not because I don't find that at all painful for me to do. Like, I enjoy doing it because I love getting the updates. I love seeing the momentum. And which employee doesn't want to be part of something fast moving? Do you want to work at Onyx where everything's moving really fast and you're pushing stuff out to production, as they call it, live within weeks of being here? Or do you want to work at IBM, right? And that's
some people do like that, but that's what I'm saying.
They're not for us.
Exactly. So this is clearly your principles, and I'm absolutely aligned and love it. So it's so exciting, and I think a great introduction to you and what you're going to do at Onyx and what Onyx are doing. So thanks for your time. And thanks, guys, for listening. We're going to leave it there. And please tune in for the next podcast. We'll be back to markets, but we will be having, I think, one more on the leadership series for this series. And that will be our CFO soon to come. So thanks again, and speak to you all soon.
Thank you.